Welcome to the Let's Talk Startups podcast, brand new special edition series. In this series, Nargis and I are going to be catching up with a founder and taking a deep dive into their niche sector and draw out as many expert insights from them as we possibly can to help all of you founders out there on your journey. So with that in mind, we'd like to introduce you to our first guest, Isaac Twidale. Isaac, welcome to the special edition show.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. Can I just say straight off the bat, you have the voice for podcasting. What a relaxing, sultry tones. It's great.
Wow. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, don't fall asleep on us, okay? We need to get expert insights from you, Isaac. So.
Definitely.
Thanks.
Okay then, so with that in mind then, Isaac, let's have a little introduction from you. Tell us who you are, what you do, and who you're working with.
Absolutely. So as already introduced, my name's Isaac, and I am the founder and director of We Do Ads. So We Do Ads, rather unsurprisingly, runs adverts for small to medium-sized enterprises all over the UK. We've got a few American clients as well, which is all really fun. You know, we do search ads, we do paid media that spans across social media, but also, you know, Google's display capacity as well. And in the last sort of 9 months, we've been working on a project called 10x Teams, which is our service to founders. It's our service to startups and scale-ups. It's a talent-based solution. It's a talent-based approach to advertising, where we source the very best people from all over the world in different startups niches.
Perfect. Love that. And I guess for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to kind of drill down into a very specific area of advertising, a specific area of Google Ads, and kind of talk about AI, because why not? Every second person's talking about AI. I think it's important to sort of take a look at what's changing, how it's affecting, you know, the world of advertising, and specifically for this podcast, obviously how that affects founders as well. However, I'm going to start sort of at the beginning, looking at the world of paid ads, and talk about, I guess, life before AI. So can you talk to us about sort of what that landscape currently looks like for Google Ads? You know, maybe you've got some stats, just a bit of description of what the lay of the land sort of looks like right now.
Sure. Okay. So, I mean, straight off the bat, I actually think the conversation is going to take a turn that you won't expect, because really AI has always been a part of Google. You know, it wasn't a part of like smoke signals or maybe like billboards, but in terms of Google has always had to use AI. And so in terms of like the way that it's evolving, it is having a much more public integration of AI into its platform. And how we understand AI now is things like generative AI, like, of course, ChatGPT or DALL-E, right? But Google has always used a computer to help it make bidding decisions, targeting decisions at a scale that no human would ever be able to do. And at the end of the day, we would never really be able to manage the bidding process. So the first thing to dispel is that AI is a new thing for Google. These guys have been leading the way. In terms of how the landscape is changing, though, absolutely. Generative AI, creating ad assets, an ad asset can be the visual or the copy. That is definitely taking a forefront in Google now. And another thing would also be, moving away from AI, is the user interface of Google Ads. And all of this is to make Google Ads more accessible to new advertisers.
And if we think about Google then, and advertising sort of through Google, how does it compare to other ad platforms that are out there? So if you think about Meta, Twitter, things like that, how does that compare? And especially for founders as well.
100%. So basically, we can broadly put advertising into two categories. We can talk about search advertising. We can talk about media, or paid media, as we call it. So Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or Meta, that's all paid media. And then what we have is Google and Bing, really, they're the two big ones. You might also have Baidu, There's a few Russian ones. But the difference in dynamic is that when somebody is searching for a product or a service, they're generally ready to buy it. And that is how search ads are so useful to founders and to small businesses alike. Because let's say you've created a calendar software. People are out there on Google right now searching for calendar software. And if your business appears and it's relevant to what they're looking for, maybe they're looking for a certain type of calendar software, or and the ad is well written and your website looks great, then when they arrive on there, there's a really good chance that they're going to become a customer. So how that is different to paid media is more like a billboard, or a TV ad. When you drive past that billboard, you didn't ask to see it. When it's, you didn't want to see Better Call Saul, but there he is. It's a pay for impression format. With search ads, you pay for the clicks. And that's a really important dynamic because you're paying for a result. And that is so powerful to founders. And I think really in most scenarios, and I say most, and I'll tell you why in a second, it's easier to start with Google Ads. Without putting too fine of a point on it, you need less cash to get going. You need less cash and investment and time to make it work, because the thing you need to understand is when you start spending on Google Ads, month one is probably going to suck. You're probably going to lose money. Some people might not make any conversions. But what you are doing is you're finding out what search terms are working for you, what ads are getting the most clicks, which landing page that you have is getting the most conversions, what lead magnet on that landing page show. Lead magnet is like a free thing that you can have, and usually in return for email is good for services like that need to go through a sales process and need that email. You're finding all of this stuff out, and without, again, putting too fine a point on it, search ads is a much quicker process to get to the point of this is working for us, this is making money. Now, why would you not always want to do search ads if it's cheaper and quicker and better? Let's say you produce a special widget that nobody's ever heard of, or even worse, no one's even aware that the problem that it solves exists. Well, what you're doing there is you're moving into what I call a demand creation space. So if I want to buy microphones, everyone knows what microphones are, they know they exist, so you're capturing demand. You're capturing demand as people are searching for it. But if you've created an invisible microphone that is so on and so forth, people don't know that exists, so you need to show people an advert that they didn't ask to see, but using the different algorithms, we know that they're kind of predisposed to want this microphone, this special invisible microphone. That is creating demand for your new microphone business. But the one thing that I want to make clear to everyone when we talk about the differences and the landscape evolving, and this is really important for founders to bear in mind, is that the essence of advertising, and specifically Google Ads, is you need to be relevant to their needs, relevant to their searches. You need to have a user-friendly website. Design is everything. Design determines whether people trust you or not. It's one of the most important factors in whether people trust you. If you load up a website, it looks like it was built on Windows 95, they're not going to trust you. And you need to present an enticing offer. The offer is as important as anything. If you are offering people a month free trial, if you're offering them free shipping, all of these different things, and you should test all of these things, that is going to give you a bigger boost in your conversion rate than almost anything.
Okay, so that sounds all great. And, certainly there are two camps then to think about. And as a founder, deciding sort of which camp to fall into. But even before you start into that, should founders even be thinking about paid advertising at all? Because, it's costly, certainly, versus organic or doing other things to sort of get their brand out there. Even from what you're describing, tricky, competitive. I think a lot of founders are certainly put off by that world of, any sort of paid ads, whether it is sort of Google, whether it's paid media. So sort of talk us through changing that mindset then. If you've got any kind of real life sort of unbiased case studies as well, just to kind of show the viewer and the listener here of, does it actually work?
Absolutely. So, founders should have a healthy fear of advertising. It's like dogs are great, but you're always going to tell your kid not to pet a random dog in the street because it might bite. So just be wary that adverts can bite, and they can bite hard. You can waste a lot of money. And if you don't pay attention to how many zeros you put on the end of your budget, then you're screwed. So be careful. Adverts, they're hard. But should founders do them? Absolutely. Life is hard, and anything worth doing is hard, like really, or anything worth having is hard to acquire. Now, the way that we do that, the advice that I would give people is, firstly, in an ideal situation, right? In an ideal world, what you will have is 3 months of organic data feeding to your point of conversion, probably going to be a website, right? And ideally, you would have a few thousand hits a week. That was a big ask, but the reason that is important is because it creates the metrics that you need to understand how safe an investment advertising is going to be for you. So what do I mean by that? What are the specific metrics that you want to be looking at? So first of all, you want to be looking at how many people that arrive to your website do the conversion. Is it a purchase? Is it a lead form? Is it download the lead magnet? Whatever it is, how many of them are doing it? The second thing is like, what's the process sort of before or after that? So like if you're e-com, it's like how many people are falling off at the add to cart stage or at the checkout stage? Or if you are, let's say, lead generation, it could be how many people then go from a lead form to a booked meeting to actually a sale, or from a lead magnet to a booked meeting to a sale, or like how good your emails. The point is what we're talking about here is a funnel. It's our process of turning clicks into customers. And you want to know how that works before you start spending lots of money on adverts. Because adverts are a very expensive way to validate that funnel. That's what we're talking about here, validating the funnel. Is, does my funnel work? Is it a leaky funnel? The last thing that you really want to do is is what the value of these customers are to you. We really want to know what the lifetime value of the customers are. And all of this is really important because if we say that a Google search ad is a £1 click and you have a 1% conversion rate into customers, and that product is worth £30 and you make a 50% margin on it, then I can already tell you that your ad's going to be profitable because you're spending, I can already tell you that your ad isn't going to be profitable because you're spending £100 to get a sale that you're only making £15 of margin on. Okay. So then we start understanding, it's like, okay, well, if I get my conversion rate up to 5%, then I'm only spending 20 quid. And then actually, if my customer, I make 15 quid on the initial sale, but the next month they're going to spend another 15 quid. So, okay, my cash flow here is initial loss profit. And a lot of founders will have to sort of navigate that dynamic. So yes, please do ads. If they are appropriate for you, explore all the other organic channels first. But if you're also extremely well-funded, this is the only caveat. If you're really well-funded and you've got 150K, 750K in pre-seed, something like that, right? And you might actually have the money to validate a funnel with advertising spend because you're trying to do a lot of different things. The allure of adverts is that it's like, all right, 1,000 visitors tomorrow, done, okay? But it's an expensive thing and very useful, but expensive. So my advice to people who are on a shoestring, they're trying to bootstrap, is try and get as much organic traffic as possible. Speak to a professional about your metrics. Go and read some Hootsuite blogs or whatever. Get up to date, and you should have a really strong idea whether your adverts are going to be profitable or not.
Isaac, I want to talk a little bit more then, just dive in a bit more with the AI side of things. You've mentioned, obviously Google have had AI in the background for a very long time. You touched on ad assets and copy, which seems like it's going to make that side of things a bit easier if AI is involved. But are there any other areas that AI is coming into play with Google that is going to ultimately help the advertisers? Sure.
So taking it back to the inception of Google, it it's been 20 years. Has it been 25? I think it's been 25. It's been a long time, almost as long as I've been around. Yeah, and they are what we call a mature platform. Their algorithm is very mature. Now, people hear this word thrown around a lot, and it doesn't always mean a lot to everyone. But the real point is that this algorithm really dictates how Google runs. And it's developers' job to develop that algorithm. So the algorithm is going to decide who sees what ads. It's going to see what search results you see, moving away from adverts. It's also going to decide who's bidding on what click, which search, who's going to bid how much, when those searches are going to appear. The algorithm is this sort of black box that I don't really understand. I just understand it from a practical level in terms of how to run ads. And that is AI. So AI has always been involved. The recent developments are these generative features. And so in terms of what is actually being integrated, it is the auto-created assets. There's also auto-created keywords for you as well. Just by using broad match types, you're going to be accessing Google's AI features. We can go into match types, but it's essentially like, do I want to appear for terms related to microphones? Do I want to appear for search terms with a specific string of words in? So the string of word might be expensive microphone. So it's like, where'd you buy expensive microphone near me? Or do I want an exact match? And an exact match is exactly that. And then there's broad match. Sorry, I don't think I mentioned broad match, which is like, I want terms similar, very broad, and that's AI, and you can appear for a lot of different things. There's also the recommendations feature. So Google will look at your account and say, hey, I think you're like only 60% of the way of having your account fully optimized. Super useful at times. And then there's the responsive search ads. So you go in there and you give Google 15 headlines and 4 different descriptions and lots of snippets and different basically ad extensions, and with enough spend behind it, Google will find out what combination of those different assets is the top performer. So this is important for founders for one key reason, and it's that if you're a solo founder with not a lot of budget, it's very easy to get onto Google and to start advertising. And these features make that possible. But I want to make 2 real caveats here and why the AI features in Google are something to be utilized in unison with an expert, right? And I really do believe that. The first thing is that a lot of these recommendations are pro-Google's in terms of pro-Google's bank account. Like, they are just trying to get you to spend more money. Like, they're so keen for us to use broad match. Broad match is crap. I've not seen broad match use work for anyone, but they seem to insist that it's the best thing since sliced bread. It probably will be eventually, but right now, yeah, I'm not pro broad match at all. In terms of as well, these auto-created assets, a lot of them look like they don't look very good. And it's a shame because that is something that that could be the most use to new founders. It's like you're a technical founder, you don't know how to put pretty pictures and videos together. Google comes in and goes, hey, should we make your assets for you? And you're like, oh, that sounds like a great deal. It's not, it's a crap deal. It doesn't work. And they look bad. So the 2 things that you need to remember is that it often will just result in you spending more and not getting more results. And a lot of these auto-generated things, they don't look very good. And so that's why you always have to either learn how to do Google Ads really well or try and work with a third party, whether it's a permanent hire, an agency. There's a lot of peer-based, cohort-based learning programs that you can join, which is like sort of, you've got like learning guides and then you've got group meetups every week. Those sort of things exist. Use AI, but use them intelligently. That's what I'm saying.
Wow, so there's quite a few little things here. So the first is the algorithm itself. Do they sort of like, if we look at ChatGPT, for example, they release a new update, they tell you what they've done. Do Google do something similar to professionals like yourself to let you know that it's been updated?
Yeah, it's a give and take sort of relationship. They tell you 50% or maybe even 80%, but it's the other 20% that you really want to know. So they're not going to tell you everything, but they do. Yeah, they absolutely do keep you informed. But this is, again, maybe slightly biased, but I feel like you should work with agencies, because the reality is that Google updates every week. How are you supposed to stay on top of that? You join one of these courses, whatever, and this is actually why the courses are good. So I'm pro courses, I'm pro cohort based learning, because but let's say you just download a course and just learn how to do it via this course, it could be outdated. It's very likely to be outdated knowledge. Things that worked last week that were pivotal now do not. But with the cohort-based thing, you're in a group and they're constantly, everyone's being like, this worked for me, this didn't work for me. And then you've got the sort of the sensei of the group who's running it and saying, no, this is what works. And you go, okay, you listen to them, and it's a great way to do Google Ads. And actually, it's a great way to do any sort of advertising platform.
You talk about the different types of matching. You mentioned 3. You said broad matching was rubbish. Why do they offer the 3 anyway? Is it just another way for them to get more budget out of you? Or is there a genuine reason why they offer the 3 different types? Why don't they just have one to make it easy?
That is a very great question, Demos. And I don't really have a solid answer for you, because I think broad match can work. I think broad match works at scale, because it's a very expensive way to discover new keywords. And the reality is that whether it's exact match keywords or phrase match keywords, they will still show your search results to people that have made searches slightly outside of your bracket. So it's not as controlled as you think it is. I think I have seen broad match work, so I don't want to sit here and pretend that it's only crap, because it does work, but it's really not very regularly. And when it comes to phrase match and exact match, I think this is the thing. When you're actually in the account, it just comes down to, has it worked for you or not? Because I've got certain clients whose exact match blows the phrase match out of the water, but then it's vice versa. And I've actually seen in the past small campaigns that are spending £500 to £1,000 a month only using broad match, and it's knocking it out the park. The point is that the general rule of thumb, it tends to be the case for everyone, is that phrase and exact match is the easiest way to get the most relevant clicks. They are a little bit more expensive than broad match clicks, but they have higher conversion rates. It's very easy to control your budgets on those, so I would always push people to do those first.
On the note of the clicks, it's something that I've seen mentioned quite a few times before, actually, in different things. With the monitoring of these clicks, obviously, I know you can monitor them when they land on your site, but given that this is all driven by AI, playing a bit of devil's advocate here, how do we know that out of 100 clicks, they are genuine consumers like you and I sitting on our phones, searching for something, and we click, and it's not just Google's AI clicking on there to use your budget?
I don't think that happens.
Is there a way? You don't think that happens at all?
No. I mean, I think that there is a certain amount of click fraud that happens, which is competitors and bots clicking on your ads. Like, there's a platform called ClickCease that exists to combat specifically that. But I really doubt that Google is clicking your ads to burn for your budget. And I believe that if they were caught doing that, it'd be absolutely enormous. But if you want to have a sort of a broader conversation about tracking and attribution and actually knowing that the clicks that are coming through are turning into customers, I think that's the important thing. And I think very simply that we know that the quality of the clicks is where it needs to be, just because if you're good at running ads and you have a great offer and a great website, those clicks will turn into customers at a rate that is comparable to other ad platforms. So in the broader context of the advertising world, we know these clicks are high quality.
You mentioned about these bots then. Can you just tell us a little bit about these bots? Competitors, I understand that. I think it's a bit sad just burning through somebody else's ad budget. But anyway, that's another conversation. But what about bots? How do these bots work then?
So So I actually don't know enough about bots to comment on it, but I know that they exist and they're out there. They have many different uses. So all sorts of different platforms on the internet are employing them to do various jobs, but I'm not qualified to talk on bots.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
So I'm going to bring the focus back to the founder, if that's all right. And obviously there's a lot there to sort of unpack and get, heads around and navigate through. And keen to kind of find out about the journey that founder takes, right from the, do you know what, we're going to start using paid ads in our strategy, right through to how do we incorporate and make the best use out of these AI components of Google Ads. What does that kind of journey look like? And I guess feel free to sort of use your own case studies, maybe, clients that you've worked with. What does that look like, particularly for a startup founder?
Yeah, so if I understand your question correctly, it's what's the journey as a startup founder to getting onto Google Ads and bringing new customers?
Precisely.
Okay, let's talk about it. This is the exciting part, of course, because it's way more doable than people think. I think, first of all, what's happening is clicks are going to somewhere. So that somewhere is a website on Google Ads. And if you are a e-commerce website, there is also a functionality where Google might display your products in the search engine results rather than having to visit your website. Now, as a founder, you've got to get your website to a best practice standard. So it looks great. It's easy to navigate. Now, without overcomplicating this, you just need to make that route to purchase simple. You want as little as text as possible. People seem to think that paragraphs is when was the last time you read a paragraph on a product? You just don't do it. What you want to do is to see the core information. And it's the same with buttons. People throw 100,000 buttons on there. It's distracting. We call it an attention ratio. What's the desired action versus how many different buttons are there? Really, you want a one-to-one attention ratio. So get that journey on the website to purchase, to signing up, to downloading, whatever it is, as simple as possible. Get that website looking clean. There are a million resources out there on how to do this. There are hundreds of website builders that have templates. There's no excuse to have a shit looking website. Pull it together, make your website look good. Then when that customer has made that conversion, when you know that it's working, what you want to do is you want to try and get as much organic traffic as possible. There are so many sources of organic traffic. You could go and knock on people's doors. You could drop letters through their letterbox. You could post to social media. You could do smoke signals. There's so many things that you can do. There's no reason that any founder with the right sort of oomph behind them can't go onto the internet and start generating a lot of hype. PR, PR is a great one. Collaborations with other businesses and influencers. When you have that website correctly set up, when you have a few thousand people visiting it every week, or maybe a few 500 if it's a much more niche market, like obviously you've got to be realistic about this. You might be ready for adverts then. Start speaking to people, reading resources to learn how metrics work, funnels, understand funnels. You want to understand what your conversion rate is. You want to understand what your lifetime value of a customer is. When you start having these metrics available to you, then you will be ready to do advertising. Now, the number one most important thing for adverts, you cannot do it without this, is proper tracking setup. And to be fair, you need tracking setup when you have the organic traffic, but it's a lot simpler. You simply just install Google Analytics, which I'm going to go out on a whim here and say every single website builder has an integration to Google Analytics in that. It's free, by the way. Google Analytics is free. You go in there, you go to Google Analytics, you make an account, you then go back into your website builder and they connect up, job's done. But tracking, we need to understand what the behavior of the people on your website is when they're coming from ads. We need to understand whether they're converting. And if you have a slightly more complicated funnel, we need to understand how those clicks are performing through the funnel, okay? So are they, for example, how many of your Google Ads clicks turned into a lead, and then how many of those booked a meeting, and then ultimately how many of them bought the product? And then what does that mean for the profitability of your ads? You cannot skip this. Like, you have to get this so right, because this forms the foundation of advertising. That clean data that is indicative of the performance of your ads, of the behavior of your customer, is then used to improve your ads. Like, I can't go into your ad account. You can't go into your ad account and work out if ad A, B, C, or D generated the most conversions if you're not tracking it. Now, this is hard, okay? It is hard. And like, if you're a tech first founder, if you're technical, you could probably work it out yourself, especially if you're a coder. You know, if you do software, like, I'm pretty certain you could work it out. But if you're not, and most people aren't, you probably want to hire somebody to help you with this. And it'll be a few £100, but it's the best investment you'll ever make. You want clean data, and you want to be certain that it's right. You want that peace of mind. From there, actually, when you're running Google Ads, my advice to you is to work with an expert, because it is difficult. It is hard. And again, if you don't have the budget and you have the grit, you can learn to do these things yourself. But it's going to take investment from you somewhere. Maybe you're going to have to pay to join one of these cohort-based learnings groups. I wouldn't really recommend buying courses online, because they tend to become outdated pretty quickly. So you could buy a recent course, but the more recent courses tend to be more expensive because they know their value. I would look at working with a professional. Now, what that professional is going to do is they're going to create a list of keywords, and they're going to create a sort of a variety of ads. And then they're also going to list those keywords into different groups called ad groups, usually split out by like what different product you're offering or different reasons people might buy your product. And then you're going to go into that sort of that testing phase. Now, the testing phase is about working out which keywords are working, which aren't, which ads are working, which aren't. But as you scale your budget, the scale of the operation, the knowledge base that you need to understand exponentially increases. Because the way that you manage a search ad is very, very different to the way that you manage a performance max ad, which is one of Google's main sort of AI-driven advertising features. Also extremely powerful. But, you know, for performance max to really do its thing, it needs 50 conversions a week. So all of these like Google-driven AI features, they're great, but they need a lot of conversions. They need a lot of data. So like, let's say again, your product is a £50 cost per acquisition and you need 50 conversions a week. That's £2,500 a week you just need to be spending just for the AI to get optimized. And it might not be the right ad that you've optimized after all that time. So different budgets open up different doors. And if you have a £500 a month budget, a £1,000 a month budget, I would stick to search ads. Search ads are your friends. Display ads are very difficult to make work. Performance max ads, AI ads, they need a lot of money to work, but when they work so well. And if you're an e-commerce founder, then what you really need to do is you need to get onto Google Merchant Center and get familiar with that. It's actually a little bit simpler than the rest of Google. So I have a lot of faith that you could probably do that yourself. And this will allow you to run shopping campaigns, which are what I was talking about earlier about the individual product results that appear on Google Ads. That is sort of like a whistle-stop tour. As ever, the point is that it's a highly technical process and you need to have a plan in place to deal with how complicated it is.
No, and I love that whistle-stop tour, because that's enormously helpful to sort of know what that process is like, right? And as you're talking, it's about sort of understanding, certainly for our listeners, at what point do they fit into that timeline? You know, what should they be thinking about at certain points? And I like the way that you're talking about when is the right time to hire that professional, because it might not be right from the offset. As you said, there's obviously a certain amount of groundwork that should be put in, right? Organically building up the traffic to your website. Very interesting that you mentioned then about AI, making the most use of the AI features of Google, but only when you're a bit more established, when you've got those. So it doesn't really sort of have a place for early stage then, would you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to go out on a whim here and say something that is maybe a little bit controversial. Like, I think the AI powered features for new businesses, the new ones that are coming in specifically, really, because like I said, the whole platform is AI at its core. The generative AI, so auto-created assets, recommendations, that's not generative AI, but auto-generated assets, recommendations, what else would be in there? Let's just go with those two, yeah. I think they're a bit of a gimmick. I don't think they're very useful to founders at all because a lot of the auto-generated stuff is just not very good. Even when they recommend what keywords you should be using, a lot of these keywords are like not very relevant, or they're either too broad or they're using broad match keywords all the time. Like I still think that the AI features that are most useful to people are Google's ability to optimize your targeting and your bidding for generating the most results, which can only be a product of having enough data in the system. So you can kind of like artificially create that if you have big data sets that already exist, but most new founders won't. So I still think from an account management perspective, you need to do it yourself, and the newer stuff and the Performance Max and all of this, it's not very accessible to new founders. And also, do not take the phone calls from Google reps, from account managers, because it's a load of shit. Like, they are not to be trusted, and most of them are actually, honestly, believe it or not, they're on commission. They're third-party agencies that are on commission to get people to spend more money on Google ads, which maybe I'm about to get a lawsuit through the post, but like I get probably 3 or 4 calls from all the different platforms every single week, and I just hang the phone up immediately as soon as I know that they are them. You're going to get emails from them, you're going to get phone calls from them. Ignore them. It's all, they're reading from a sheet from Google's recommended best practice, which of course they have a bias to get you just spending more cash. So ignore those calls.
Absolutely. No, and that's what this series, that's what we're here for, to dispel those myths, and we love controversy and the reason we love it is because there will be founders that will run for those gimmicks. They will be chasing, I just heard about this brand new feature, or I need to get all over that, or they've read something on Hootsuite and that's what I need to do. But if it's going to burn through their budget even faster, if it's not actually going to really help them, then yeah, that sort of advice is gold dust. Stay clear of it. Do maybe something a bit more traditional route, right? Yeah, everyone will.
Every single client, new advertiser, everyone falls for it and books meetings with them and talks to them. It's a waste of time and it's a waste of cash, so don't do it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Isaac, I want to talk a little bit about the future of Google Ads then. I mean, where do you see things going over the next, I don't know, let's say 5-10 years for Google Ads? Because certainly when this whole generative AI, chat GPT and things came along, they were saying, that's it. People are not going to be going to Google anymore. They're just going to be asking platforms like this, and hence Google bought out Bard and things like that. Do you think there's going to be a change, firstly, in the way people are searching for things over sort of in the future years?
Yes. So first of all, I am just a lowly Google advertiser, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm the authority on Google's 5 to 10 year plan. Like, if
that's fair enough, I appreciate that.
It would be great if I did, but I can't. I know you're talking to the wrong guy. Really, we just need to get Sergey in. Get Sergey Brin, and then we'll have that sorted.
We'll try and get them in. We'll try and get them in another episode, maybe
next week. Maybe.
Yeah. It can't be that hard. Yeah. But I would say that, from my experience, the big things that are going on is there are going to be more ways to search, whether it's voice search, whether it is visual search, it's generative AI search like Bard. This is going to make people's searches more relevant. It's going to make richer searches. It's going to make people more likely to search. So I think we're going to see an increase in search volume, and I think we're going to see an increase of ad relevancy. Maybe these slightly more niche businesses are going to be able to target their ads better because people who didn't know they needed what they provide we'll start to see them. So I think there is a shift in the way that searches are happening that is actually going to be better for everybody. I also think that privacy is going to be on our minds potentially forever. I don't see it going away. Privacy is the user's best friend and the business's worst enemy, because I, as a business, want to know everything about you. And you, as a user, irrationally don't want me to know anything. Because, really, if you're a user, why wouldn't you want to see adverts that are relevant to you? Like, I don't need to see adverts about babies' nappies, but like if I saw an ad, well, not, you never know, but I would love to see adverts about, let's say that cohort-based learning for Google. If I saw something like that was really good, I'd be like, thank God these guys know what my preferences are. But also, it's not just about preferences, it's about understanding when somebody converted. So basically, at the moment, the best practice, and these things will change. So if you're listening to this in a year's time, don't take my word for this anymore. But right now, Google Tag Manager is giving us 30% more conversions tracked than any other form of tracking. This is really good because not only does it give you a clearer picture of how highly performing your ads are, it also means that Google is aware of 30% more people that wanted to buy your product. So suddenly the pool of potential buyers increases. So a lot of businesses, they struggle to spend more money at the same level of profitability. They struggle to achieve scale. To begin with Google Ads, people will probably struggle to achieve profitability, and then they will struggle to be profitable at 10, 20, £100,000 a month. But if Google is aware of a much bigger pool, then suddenly you'll be able to spend 30% more, which is huge. That's like a 30% increase in revenue. But also your ads were making 30% more money anyway. So it's like this compounding effect. And so that little anecdote is important because it explains why privacy is so impactful for advertisers. Because if we can track data and behavior and purchases closer, more accurately, then we can spend more at a more profitable rate. So this privacy war is really tough. And so what's happened recently is Google, we know about iOS 14 with Facebook when Apple basically said, yeah, you can't track any of that anymore. And it was more of a competitive move rather than a privacy first move. But also Google are now getting rid of cookies, third-party cookies, which they've had for years.
Isaac, remind us when that's actually kicking in. It's soon, isn't it? It's imminent.
It is imminent, but they keep on changing the horizon on that. I actually stopped paying attention to when that was getting removed because it just kept changing. So to be honest with you, I don't have a straight answer on that one, but I think it is definitely within the next 6 months, could be up to next 12 months. But the point is that is like a complete seismic shift in the industry, and they're moving to something called a privacy sandbox, which again, I'm not qualified. You could have a whole career on just tracking and attribution. This is what I mean about the depth of knowledge on each of these individual things. I follow people on LinkedIn that run entire business models around teaching people how to use just performance max campaigns. So they're moving to privacy sandbox. It's going to be a balance between user privacy and business growth. In terms of where else we see everything moving, there's all that fun, exciting stuff like augmented and virtual reality, putting adverts in there, which will lead to more entertaining ad experiences. It will, your instant thought is like, great, so I'm just going to see adverts in my bedroom now, like in my field of view, but it will be, the adverts will be way more engaging, way more entertaining. You'll have more memorable ad experiences. It's really good for advertisers. And probably enhanced e-commerce integrations. Think about how you can pretty much book a hotel room from Google search results page. It's things like that. It's things about they're integrating or have just integrated product reviews into these search results as well. So when your little card appears with your product and the price on there, and you put the discount on there, you also how many 5-star reviews it's had, things like that. So I think Google is going to become more integrated into the e-commerce process, and for the better, really, for the better.
Do you think they're going to be the leaders as well moving forward? Sort of, do you think 10 years from now they're still going to be the leaders, or is there something else potentially on the horizon?
Well, it's $1 million question. I mean, as it stands, ChatGPT is the behemoth of generative. It's not even generative AI, really. It's LLM. I don't really know. I'm not, again, like, I just know how to do adverts, guys. You're asking me some big questions here, but I would say that...
That's what we're here for, though. We've got to ask these big questions.
You got to push, yeah. So, I mean, listen, ChatGPT has that partnership with Bing, and I think that, I'm seeing agencies all over getting more poised to upscale their Bing strategy. So, I think we're going to see a big shift. It's the first time that Google has ever really been challenged in a meaningful way. Google own like 95% of the search market. That is going to reduce. If you go on Google Bard as well, it's just nowhere near as good. It's like low-key kind of rude to you as well, which I don't like. I don't know why they've made Google Bard so unfriendly. ChatGPT is like great. But, and I think over the next 5 to 10 years, all I can say with certainty is that Google's share will, in terms of market share, will drop.
Isaac, thank you so much for joining us today. We've sort of come to the end, although we probably could carry on and hit you with some even bigger questions and really test you out. But thank you so much. It's been really, really good to have you sort of join us today and talk to us about the basics, the in-depth stuff, the hard-hitting, dispelling the myths, which I personally love. Hope you've enjoyed the conversation. Yeah, thank you so much.
I absolutely have loved every second. And my final parting word is that you've got to remember adverts are just a way of getting clicks to your website. If your website looks good and you have a great offer, great product, it's going to work. So focus on that. Don't lose your mind over adverts.
Fabulous. Final words. Thanks for that. Thanks to everyone who's been listening and for the very first time watching us. And as for Isaac, you've heard him speak. You now know what he looks like as well. So it's time to get in touch with him and find out how he can help you in your own startup. There's going to be links to get in touch with him in the caption and the summaries below, or get in touch with Demos and myself and we'll be happy to make a personal introduction. But as you've heard, he definitely knows his stuff. So time to get in touch. Hope you've enjoyed the first of our very special edition video podcast as well. We've got some inspiring founders on the way to you very soon, discussing some other hot topics as well. So don't miss out and tell everyone you know. So till the next time, take care everyone and bye for now.